And I think when I went to San Sebastian, I really saw how restaurants really took that to a new level in terms of, seasonal produce or creating that very special experience, the storytelling and, synchronized service. But we definitely knew that there was too much excitement, and we knew that, we could feel it from people's conversations of the excitement to look forward to come to a restaurant like that. But I think that, I'm not trying to sound boastful, but I was very confident. I was very confident about what we'd set out to do. You might have a great idea and you could be a risk taker, but if you don't believe in it and it's not something that drives you, then you can probably fail. And that's my advice to every entrepreneur out there, is that you really need to work with the right-minded people and invest in your people, because they are the ones who are going to lift you in the low times.
Hello and welcome to the Success with Savita podcast, where we share hot tips on how to do life and business without losing your mind. I'm your host, Savita Nanjappa, entrepreneur, high-achieving 9-to-5er turned transformational success coach, helping you create a wildly successful business. Come hang out with me and other fabulous humans like you every week for stories and chats packed with a healthy dose of tips, resources, how-tos, and real talk. Side effects may include a happier and more confident you with each passing day. Hi and welcome to the month of March, and this month is not only International Women's Day on the 8th of March but also Women's History Month, and to mark this we are bringing you some very special guests through this month. Starting off with our first guest this week, Aditi Dugar. But before we get started, I want to take a moment to introduce my guest and all her achievements. Meet Aditi Dugar, founder and director, Masque and Urban Gourmet India Private Limited. Born and raised in Mumbai, Aditi Dugar graduated with a Master of Commerce from Sydenham College while also finishing Level 2 of a CFA degree. She then spent the next several years working in private equity until the birth of her first child, when she decided to take a break. But growing up in a family of passionate cooks with exposure to diverse culinary backgrounds, Aditi quickly developed an inclination towards the food industry, and in 2012, she launched a boutique catering service, Sage and Saffron, from her home kitchen. Along the way, she kept honing her skills by way of stints at 2-Michelin starred restaurants, as well as training with a street food vendor in Thailand, and so much more. In September 2016, after nearly 2 years of R&D spent traveling, across the country, setting up supply chains with farmers and local producers, Masque, the restaurant, opened doors in the heart of Mumbai. This was the first restaurant in India to serve a singular chef's tasting menu using locally sourced ingredients. Masque quickly garnered a reputation for constant innovation along the way and won many awards, including landing a spot on Asia's 50 Best Restaurants and also making it the first female-led Indian enterprise on the list. Aditi acts as founder and director of the parent group Urban Gourmet India Private Limited. Alongside Masque and Sage and Saffron, she runs Bakery 27 Bakehouse and the kitchen at Seesaw Cafe in Mumbai. She's also an advisor to Araku Cafe, the sustainable coffee chain based out of Bengaluru. Join me to listen to her inspiring story and her advice. Hi, Aditi. Welcome to the Success with Savita podcast, and I'm really excited to have you here for many reasons, but for the fact that Masque is so, everybody knows about Masque, but also that you have been behind so many brands. So welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be speaking to you.
Thank you.
I'm really honored. Yeah.
Thank you. My first question to you for our audience, let's talk about your journey so far. What made you shift finance to the food business? And just share with us what made you change track. What were your early challenges?
I would say that it was really a happy accident. I got pregnant and then I got pregnant again in another 10 months. So, that made me make the shift. And I decided to be a stay-at-home mom for 4 years and really give it my all in the beginning because obviously I was nursing two young kids.
Yeah.
But then, I was always been very, very passionate about food and hanging around and spending more time at home with my mom and, visiting my grandmom, spending the weekends there at times. So it really made me realize that sort of food was my calling. My mom used to run these home cooking classes, and I
Okay.
started helping her to professionalize it, only to realize that, that's what I wanted to do. I
Yeah.
started a catering company with her. It was a very small, homegrown idea. But I think that I'm always been so driven and always had a big vision and work. I guess because also being from finance, always worked with big numbers.
Mm.
For me, it was all about growing the business.
And did you at any time growing up think that this may be something that you may go into later in life? Or growing up, did you always want to do finance?
No, not at all. In fact, I wanted to be a doctor.
Okay.
Not at all. Food was something that I never even entered the kitchen, very frankly. I mean, I was always passionate about baking, and
Yeah.
usually I'd bake, and then literally so many times that would be fed to the cows. Uh,
Really? Hard to believe. Not that is hard to believe. Okay.
no, genuinely. I mean, of course, I've always had very, very great, strong taste buds and great knack of putting things together, even without following a recipe. And I think that's really been sort of, it's been very intuitive. My cooking or like being in the kitchen I've always seen my mom do it very intuitively. So that's literally how I cook.
Mm.
But I never was, I mean, cooking or being in the kitchen or running a food business was never on the horizon.
Yeah. And then you decided to start Masque in 2016, 2017. Um, that's a big step. And the concept also was new. What was the thought process going into it? What made you feel like, yeah, this is going to work? Did you have doubts? Um,
So like, I think when I decide something, I never doubt myself. So I think, and for me, it's all about a vision has to come in front of me. Like I almost imagine it
Mm.
end to end, and till that vision is not clear, I don't really even sort of dive into a project ever. I may talk about it or say contemplate the idea and discuss it with many people, but like when the storyboard is ready in my head, that's when I deep dive into anything. I have new ideas every day, and I wake up with new ideas to tell my team, hey, we need to do this, or we need to now be doing this. But frankly, whatever gets into like fruition is really things that I have complete clarity over. And I
Mm.
think Mask was one such idea. I think also because I was catering in a very, very niche space and I was only doing vegetarian food back in the days, um, because I come from a vegetarian household and, that's what I wanted to, and that was my expertise. And till I didn't bring on professionals on board, like I had no idea about, anything to do with
Mm.
non-vegetarian food. So it was basically cooking seasonal, plant-based,
Mhm.
very, very tasty vegetarian food. And then when I think because I was catering to such a niche audience, um, and so hence I think I knew what my audience wanted.
Yeah.
I knew, like, they would go back to the experiences globally and they would eat at all these restaurants and they'd come back with asking me, saying, how can we have this at our next dinner party? Like,
Yeah.
there was such less choice available for vegetarian 12 years ago that there were very few people who were really sort of leading the path, even on the catering side.
Mhm.
And creative food, put out beautifully was really not the ordinary that you would see at events because everything would be in shafers and the dining concept was not so evolved.
Mhm.
And I think I realized that gap, and that really, really, I'm very thankful to the exposure I've got over the years of, being able to travel or go work at do some stages in some kitchens, or I even worked with a floral company in the UK, and I got to go see large setups at like Sotheby's. And that really sort of opened my mind out to the possibilities of how, one can even engage with presenting food. And
Mm.
since I already had that sort of experience with catering, I knew that there was a gap in fine dining and the way one could enjoy an experience. And again, that goes back to, a lot of like travel and global exposure. And I think when I went to San Sebastian, I really saw how restaurants really took that to a new level in terms of, seasonal produce or
Yeah.
creating that very special experience, the storytelling, and, synchronized service, and I really thought that India was, of course, the five stars really had that level of service, but India was really lacking that when it came to experiences at standalone places. And, going to a five-star hotel is now becoming more and more passe, and people are looking to go to more standalone places for experiences.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you actually did put in a little bit of prep, right? I mean, you've gone to different places, you learned from so many people, you observe, and you launch Masque. What happened like with the early days when you started, and what was like early feedback? What did people say and how?
Everybody said we'd fail.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I mean, of course, it was a lot of learning. I can't say like we had it all planned out and like we knew it'd be a success overnight. But we
Mm.
definitely knew that we were there was too much excitement, because and we knew that. Like we could feel it from people's conversations, of the excitement to look forward to come to a restaurant like that, or from the press, like when we spoke to people, like it was new for India to do an only tasting menu restaurant, to be only dependent on produce from the country. Of course, like we were totally like sort of the path leaders in this space, and I think it was really the right time, right place. And of course, I mean, there have been restaurants that probably did it before us, but they were probably too early in the day to do it.
Mm.
And, when we did it, it was probably like people were ready for it. There were enough, not only the top 2% of India had that exposure, but also more and more people had become more aspirational towards, you know, planning their experiences, even when they travel around food and restaurants, and chefs became a more like a sought after job, suddenly. Of like, I don't think like it was so prestigious to be a chef before than it is in this day and age. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think it was really right time, right place. And I think India was ready for it. Of course, in the West, it was not like something new. Everybody was already cooking plant-based or looking at seasonality and talking about, where does the traceability of this produce come from? And like, I think really sort of chefs that I also look up to were already talking about, the planet and climate change, and like these were conversations that were already happening in the more conscious food world. And talking and connecting with more and more people like that, when I started like working on this project, really sort of made it clear that, India needed this as well.
Yeah. What I'm hearing you say is yes, timing is important and it's crucial, but also, you brought this concept. It's a risk that you took. It could have paid off. You didn't know how it was going to go. But were you then surprised at how quickly Mask became so popular, got onto all the charts, got into all the lists? Were you surprised at how
I
quickly?
mean, of course, I mean, I'm very humbled for the success Mask has garnered, but I think that I mean, I'm not trying to sound boastful, but I was very confident.
Yeah.
I was very confident about what we set out to do, because we were doing it with so much truthfulness, right? Like, we came from a place of not just confidence, but truthfulness of our story, whether it was we were genuinely going and traveling to bring these ingredients. It was not like we were making a phone call and writing a story of how the ingredient travel. Like we'd done that hard work of going to the source, of researching, tradition, to go and explore these regions, to try the food, to marry, tradition and innovation. Like we did that hard work. So, I knew it had to pay off. It was the way, I think that when you're so connected to the story and to the cause, like, there was that genuineness in our concept. And I think I was very confident about that.
Yeah, confidence, and also I think the authenticity comes through.
Correct.
And that really, that's really critical in anything that would start off.
I mean, you have to believe, right? Like you have to, something has to drive you. I mean, you might have a great idea and you could be a risk taker, but if you don't believe in it and it's not something that drives you, then you can probably fail.
Yeah. This reminds me of the fact that you don't chase money comes. It's the outcome, but you follow be true to your mission. And I think that's truly something that you have embodied. Then came Araku coffee. So talk to me about Araku coffee, because the story is so different. Full transparency, I'm from a coffee family. I'm from Court. We do have estates traditionally. Not that I know anything about, I know something about coffee, but, Araku was a completely different kind of experience for you from what you had done with Masque. Talk to me about, building brand Araku.
So it also came at a very, very interesting time. It came, the project came to me during COVID. It was a time where I was really also struggling to keep my own businesses alive. And there was a lot of, obviously we had to take some big decisions of like, making Masque into like a delivery model, which we'd never thought of before, or like, doing so many different experiences through my catering, which was all at-home experiences. We started DIY kits, but I think we were very quick with sort of pivoting in our decisions, even at a very sensitive time, and because we were sort of, we had that access to go to our kitchens because we were, providing food, which is part of, what was allowed within what we were allowed during those days, who could go back to work, etc. And that, I think it again boiled down to really having the right people, working with the right people. And I think an organization is only as good as its people. And, it's, I think, and that's my advice to every entrepreneur out there, is that you really need to work with the right-minded people and invest in your people, because they are the ones who are going to lift you in the low times. And the team really came together, and really kudos to, I always, I don't think it really takes a village to build any brand, and really kudos to the team. And so Araku was one such opportunity that sort of came to me during COVID. In fact, it is a social economic enterprise, so it's not my brand. I'm the chief advisor at Araku Coffee, and Manoj, who is the founder and the CEO of Nandi Foundation, him and me connected during a coffee tasting at Masque, and then I guess like they had such a beautiful vision of what they wanted to do with the brand, and we had this instant connection, and we started sort of building out his dream during COVID, and I came on board, and I think that whole story about Araku is that it is probably the story that India should know of how, a complete Naxal barren area, which is like called Araku, which was literally falling off the map, has been transformed over Nandi's efforts since the last 20 years. No, there's not much now, like people are hearing about it, or, their efforts have been written about, like World Economic Forum to everything, because what they're doing is really sequestering carbon, and they are sort of leading the path for, making sure that every Indian is fed nutritious food in this country. So I think in the next 5 or 6 years, the effort Nandi's done with farming is really going to sort of pay off for a lot of people in this country.
Yeah.
And now they're also doing that. So that whole economic model is called Arakunomics. and they won the Rockefeller Food Vision Prize. And now they also, through Araku Coffee and through Urban Farms, which is another brand, we're sort of, spreading this message. And I think Araku Coffee is one such project, which started out as a coffee brand, but now really about changing the food system. That's the broader vision. And through our restaurants or cafes, that's what we'll be doing. Is really, and that's really been exciting. It's been an exciting project for me because I've never worked on like a singular product. And like, frankly, I have to confess that I'm not even a coffee drinker. So it was a huge challenge. I said it was a huge challenge for me in the beginning to represent or be the ambassador. But their journey has been so beautiful. And it's really, it's almost like a selfless journey, right? Like where your ulterior motive in life is to make every farmer rich.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you have that sort of a vision, it was very difficult to let them down with what I had to do with the work at a brand front.
Sure. And were your learnings vastly different? I would imagine so. Masque and Araku are two different.
Yes, because Masque is like catering to 40 to 50 diners a night, while Araku on the weekends we have 400 people through the door. So,
Wow.
obviously it's really also democratizing luxury in a bit. And that's what we've done at Araku is really, it is still a very luxurious brand. It's a very luxurious experience. It's super high end. But at the same time, we're able to talk to a larger audience and spread this message.
Yeah. And of course,
and also through our product, because we're also available e-commerce on an e-commerce platform and through a restaurant cafe experience.
Yeah. I know of the story also because, I think you opened your first cafe in Bangalore, right? And I'm based in Bangalore. So that's.
I hope you visited us at Indiranagar.
Yes, of course. But my question is, do you drink coffee now?
Yes, I do. And I'm not a coffee drinker, but I do drink coffee.
Okay.
So, like I don't need a cup of coffee a day. No.
Right.
I don't need any poison.
All right. I was that would now make me want to ask you what's your poison, but you don't need any.
I don't need anything. Work is my poison.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. Stay tuned as we take a quick break and we'll see you on the other side of the show. That's a good one. But my next question to you is about, being India's first female restaurateur on Asia's 50 Best. It's no mean feat, okay? What does that feel like? And what therefore becomes your next big goal?
I mean, we're still not on number one. We're crowned number one restaurant in Asia's, Indian restaurant in Asia's 50 Best, because we were 21st on the list. And but the number one in the country. So there was no other Indian restaurant at that ranking in the list. So hence we be crowned number one in the country. But when we get on Asia, obviously the goal would be to be number one in Asia.
Sure.
And then also to be on the global list, on the world list. So, you have to keep, and also these awards, we're not really, you don't just run businesses for awards. It's amazing for the team, and it's great, right? Like all these people are amazing to be on that, or to continue being on that path, to know that you're making a difference and doing something great and amazing, and people are recognizing your work. But I think for us, it's really, making our storytelling even stronger, making our mission even stronger. Like, we'd love to be a complete sustainable restaurant. There's so many other goals. Like, we just became the first Rally Shadow property in the country as a restaurant, the first restaurant. And I think being part of that family, you have to really now think of sustainability. Masque has always been, from day one, I think, running an only tasting menu. It also meant less wastage. We've always been composting. Everything is used within our ecosystem between the bar and the restaurant. So we have been very conscious, and it's been in our DNA. So it's not something we're doing only today, but, to do that even better would definitely be the mission.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you're sharing, I'm really impressed. And it's amazing that you are so ahead of the game. A lot of people are doing it now. I'm not saying that they aren't, but the fact that from day one, you have been conscious is something it's important. Also, I think,
And what's really amazing is that because I got to work with Araku, and since the brand is sustainable from the get-go, because that's their value system, and that's
yeah,
really the backbone of their brand is regenerative sustainability. So in fact, at Araku, it's probably the only restaurant or cafe in India that's probably using no single-use plastic. Like, everything from our cling film to everything is like made with yam. I mean, of course, the packaging, has maybe a small film because you can't really help it. India doesn't have the technology. But like even our coffee packs are all biodegradable. So like I would say that 99% we make every effort to be no plastic in Araku.
that's brilliant. That's amazing. And also, I was just thinking as you were sharing, you don't have formal chef um, training, right?
No.
Yeah, and that's what makes this such an interesting and inspiring story. So I think the lesson here is you, and to everybody who's listening, is you don't, everybody feels I'll be ready when, I have this degree or when I get this certificate. But I think what you've shown is learn in your own ways, upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, of course, obviously somebody who's, I don't think a degree is non-valuable, of course. Like, you have to constantly keep being ahead of the curve, learning, reading, and engaging. But I think that what I have is real practical knowledge, because I really did everything, like right from like going to the vegetable market or going to the floral market, like I've done it all. Like, I've really gotten my hands dirty, and I still do till date. I don't shy away from like doing tasks. Like, I think that I think it's very important to lead by example. And I think then, your learning curve can be so much, you can grow so much faster.
Yeah, amazing takeaway. And I think to me, that's a big one. I have this question, and I won't take too long. But what has been your biggest business lesson, if something comes to mind? There must be many, of course, as an entrepreneur.
There are so many. I think I surround myself by the right people and energy. And I think that I myself am a very positive person. I think like spirituality and religion have also, and my upbringing has played a big part. But yes, I think positivity is, you always have to stay positive even in the lows. And I think that's really my takeaway. Like, even when, like, I'm doing something wrong, I never think I'm going to fail, or even knowing in my head that, I'm fighting back, because if somebody's even correcting me, I know I'm fighting back for the wrong, for the wrong reason. But I stay positive in my head.
Okay, no,
I do accept at the end, and like, I'll stay quiet, but I'm always positive. I'm positive.
I love your confidence. So I can love your confidence. What has been, and I do want to ask you, like, give me some of your tips for confidence. But what has been, if you had to say an overrated piece of business advice? You get a lot of advice, but
I think that, no, my overrated piece of business advice is that you must seek help. I don't think you should try to do everything yourself. So like, hire the right people, surround yourself by great advice, whether it's from family or friends, whether you take it or not, but have that dependency, a little bit of dependency, and have that humbleness to, seek help. Be a risk taker, and obviously, like, believe in yourself, and you have to, like I said from the beginning, like, you have to find meaning. There has to be, your job has to be meaningful enough for you to drive you.
Yeah.
It can't just be money driving you.
Yeah. A word of advice to everyone who sees Instagram and then they're like, I'm going to make $1 million by the time I'm 25.
No, of course. I mean, the business has to make sense, otherwise it's not a business. But I'm
True.
just saying that everything can't just be driven by money.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I know that, when we are doing, interviews and stuff, we talk about the highs, we talk about the wins. And I know you're confident and you're like, but I want to ask you, have you had any lows? And is there something that you can share with us about some of the low times?
I mean, my logos are like, sometimes like the overconfidence can be a negative because, and I think that's really my lows, is that, I've been like probably sleeping really badly or, sometimes like the guilt of not spending enough time with my 3 kids or, that constant guilt I think is my sort of, sometimes I feel very low about it. And, not giving my health enough importance. I'm turning 40 very soon. And like, literally I'm like 10 kilos overweight. And I'm like, just this morning I was making a plan that, these lows, I can't deal with these lows anymore. And I'm shutting off and going away to a health spa soon.
I appreciate
So I think my lows are my own lows of like not feeling my full self. And I think that, trying to be good at everything sometimes, or like I'm a great multitasker and I take great pride in it, but sometimes it can backfire.
No, but I appreciate, thank you for your honesty, for sharing that. Okay, these are things that sometimes we always think of the lows of things that are others or situations that may have happened to us. So this is a good way to kind of look inward. Your zone of genius, I think I know it already, but I'd love for you to articulate.
I think it's one word. It's multitasking. That's really
That's not what I was going for.
Yeah. But I write a lot. Like I don't, so I'm able to multitask because I've got like some 50 notebooks and I keep writing. Like I'm always writing and I have a great checklist. My checklist. And like, even when people, like, even if I'm part of a big meeting, I'm always making points, even if I'm leading the meeting, because for me, it's like when I write, I really I'm able, like it never leave my head. And at any point, I'm able to connect the dots. And I think it's also a great piece of advice to give somebody to write.
But I was going to say your zone of genius to me from everything that I'm hearing is your vision, right? Your ability to see and, go after it single-minded. So I think that's your zone of genius. Let it happen to see. Okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. I think a lot of us have vision. We love ideas.
Yeah.
Also, execution, I think, is a strength that you definitely...
I think maybe, yes, the power of execution is probably my zone.
Yeah. Or you can't be where you are without that. And finally, a day in your life. I mean, walk me through a regular day in your life.
I mean, I'm not a morning person, though I pretend to be if even somebody calls, but not a morning person. And I mean, initially my kids would be very disappointed, but now they know that mom's not a morning person, so they will definitely come in to say bye to me when they're leaving for school. But I mean, but when I have to do something, I wake up. Like I can, if I have to set an alarm for my kids to study at 5, I'll be up, or I need to go for a workout, I'll be up. So I need to have a reason to wake up. I'm the worst morning person. And once I'm awake, I don't think the clock stops till I drop dead at night. It could be 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And no,
it's hectic. It's hectic, from Zoom calls to meetings to, like, my phone doesn't stop ringing.
And to people like me who want your time, who want to talk about your life and your success. And finally, before I let you go, my last one for you is a word of advice to those who are starting down the path of entrepreneurship, but also those who feel like, oh, this is not my area of expertise. Is this something I should try, or should I stick to what I studied and where I worked. For example, me, I spent 17 years in the corporate world. So for people like us who then have to go in a different direction, what's your word of advice for everyone who wants to start down into entrepreneurship?
I think that getting some practical experiences is really important, even if you're trying to change paths or career paths, because it's important to get your hands dirty and literally be ready to. And I think that what's really happening, and I'm seeing this with even like new hires or people who are now getting into businesses, that people want to straight away become entrepreneurs. And they even and it's great. I mean, it's amazing. Like some people really even achieve it at 18 and 21. And you can see that happening on Shark Tank and many other platforms where there are people who like strike gold. But I think that it's important to build that hard work into your system, and you have to learn how to work hard to really be a long-term successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay. Well said. And yeah, so with that, we come to the end of our interview. I would love to continue chatting with you, but I know time is limited, and I appreciate so much the time that you shared with us. So thank you for being with us today. And thank you for sharing your journey, your learnings with our audience. And
no, thank you. I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Savita.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode and you want more, you can go to the show notes on my website, which is successwithsavita.com/podcast. If you like what you've heard so far, I would be grateful to you if you could leave me a 5-star review, subscribe to this podcast, and share with a friend who may find this useful. You can also follow me on my Instagram @successwithsavita and DM me any questions you may have, and I will be happy to answer them for you. Until the next episode, believe in yourself and all the best to your success.